Hey cool cats and kittens, Mr. Smither here with the first of my online lessons which I'll be producing for you to study from home. Obviously we've had to take a bit of a pause, so with newspapers we'll be delaying that until we're back together. However, I do recommend that in this period that you are keeping up with lots of news. There's some great stuff coming out, some great expose on the government handling of the coronavirus, of PPE in particular, great independent journalism from places like the Canary, Guardian. I'll send you some cool links. Absolutely fantastic piece this morning from the Sunday Times, damning Boris Johnson's response to this, how much he went on holiday and how many meetings that he, in fact, neglected to arrive to. So, really damning stuff. So, what I'm going to look at today is long form TV drama. So, this is one of our CSPs, and I'm going to talk to you today particularly about how we look at TV aesthetically. I'm not going to really give you the history of television, I'm not going to talk about the technology of television. I'm going to talk about how we consume it as a medium. Now, just before we set off, our two CSPs are the German programme Deutschland 83 and the BBC English programme Capital. Now, there are various choices to make on this, and I thought these were probably the strongest criteria, they're the best. And these ones that I personally think you'll enjoy, I enjoy them very much, so hopefully it'll work. I mean, Capital's guy who did Humans and Broadchurch, fantastic TV, and Deutschland I've watched irrespective of school, really enjoyed it, and I thought it shows a really good light on the history of the Soviet Union and Germany in particular in the Cold War. So with this module, we have to look at the four theoretical frameworks, so language, reps, industries, and audiences. So it's quite a big one. There'll be lots of analysis and also time to look at the industry of television around these two. We'll be looking at the BBC again, rehashing some of what we discussed with the radio. But first, I'm just going to basically talk about, it's not really a history, but it is magical. I'm going to talk about just how TV is constructed, how it's changed, how we consume TV, and what's real and what isn't. What does TV do? Now, obviously, if this was in class, I would be going, what does TV do? I'd probably walk around for like 2 minutes, and then you'd go, wow, it does this, it does that. I'm going to tell you what it does. Essentially, it informs, it entertains, and it connects. Obviously, we can use Blummer and Katz as instant gratifications for this idea, because TV does inform us. I mean, people watch the news from it. Ultimately, it entertains, and in a way, it does connect us. I mean, all of us watching the press conferences from government, we're all watching it together. Everyone watching Love Island, and we talk about it the next day. We're all connected. It gives us a window into the world, a representation which can either be fictional or non-fictional. And actually, the difficulty with that is sometimes non-fiction rather is that sometimes it can be hard to determine what is real and what is not, what we're watching. We can also apply Maslow here, because actually you get a sense of self-actualization. Watching the Kardashians flout themselves on a yacht make you feel self-actualized as a human being, that you can aspire to such wealth. Self-esteem, you might watch programs that make you feel nice. You might feel belonging by watching Antiques Roadshow, for instance. Now, maybe just by yourselves, maybe consider about how you consume TV, how you engage with it. How is it made now? Who is TV really for? And what technology do you use? Do people consider TV in the same way that they would consider it 50 years ago? I mean, even 20 years ago, even the early 2000s, late 90s. Some things that I think are worth noting, and this is what Business Insider have kind of picked up on having in concurrence with. Our TV industry is all about streaming, especially Netflix. Netflix is huge, but as you can see, that lots of other companies and broadcasters are trying to get on this wave. Most recently, Disney Plus, also BritBox, which is a combination of both ITV and BBC programming. I've just got a free trial, so we're catching up on Brideshead Revisited from the 80s. Lots of programs to watch now, and I guarantee that all of you have some kind of streaming service. Maybe not if it's television, but you might have Spotify, Apple Music, etc. Also, the gluttony of TV shows. Let's think of the dark old days when TV was broadcast. You'd have to wait a week until the next one came out. Now they'll just dump an entire series and you just gorge it, you just watch it, you binge watch it, as we call it. There's more of a binge watch culture. I mean, I don't really binge watch myself. I find it really irritating. I'm not really enjoying the program as much, but you might watch an entire series in a day. You're also getting more remakes, revivals, and reboots. They're still here. They're not going anywhere. Hill Street Blues. I saw high fidelity TV shows out now. Film with John Cusack from the 2000s. So you'll find that TV, despite the ugly sister of cinema, is now becoming very similar like it in an economic sphere. Now we're also seeing more diverse voices. We're not just getting diversity for the sake of it. They're not just shoehorning a gay character. They're not just shoehorning in someone who's from a minority ethnic group. We're getting different stories being told. So one example could be Treme on HBO, which looks at the effects of Hurricane Katrina. You could look at Years and Years quite recently, which for my money was one of the best TV shows in the last 10 years, BBC. And you have a gay couple on there, and you have refugees from Hungary and things like that. So you get more voices being told. Also, you have to consider that TV is more expensive now. We have a wider economy. You're talking Game of Thrones on average was about $8 million an episode, $10 million an episode. We're also getting more cinematic television. And again, to use Game of Thrones as an example, it's like a film. It's not quite as polished, but it looks great. And to think that TV was made from crumbling sets, live performances, it was once dreadful. And you see some TV, which a lot of them has not been remastered, and it looks awful. But now we've got nice, sleek TV. But also we have to consider what is the ontology of television. Where does it exist? How does it exist? What is TV? Is television the box, the machine in which it plays, or is it the medium in which it's shown to us? So is YouTube now television? Because actually people, and perhaps even you guys, watch more YouTube than you do TV. But you're consuming it in a way that's like television. But of course, you can argue against this. I mean, I would argue with you, but I'm talking at you. But if you have any thoughts on this, please raise them. Is YouTube Premium and other internet streaming sites the future? TV is going to be essential. Some classic quotes about the dangers of television. Roald Dahl was particularly anti-television in terms of children watching it. However, Roald Dahl, funnily enough, also wrote for TV and he wrote for cinema. He wrote James Bond, You Only Live Twice. So, not sure what you're going on about there, Roald. But we can talk about the philosophical implications of what TV can do. And here we can, of course, talk about Baudrillard and the idea of hyper-reality. Because lots of TV is hyper-real. Are the Kardashians real? Is Come Dine With Me real? What we believe to be reality television really is not. It's massively constructed. So definitely we can tell the idea that because we're being mediated through a screen, already on the screen a simulacrum is being shown because it's a copy of what is reality. So when we can't tell what is real and what isn't, therefore it becomes a bit scary. Benefit Street a few years ago could be another great example of such. We know that this is reality and this happens, but the way in which it's constructed is not quite real. So therefore we have a disconnect of how benefits culture really exists. Another person we could talk about is a guy called Thomas D. Zengotita, and he basically said that most of our knowledge now comes through some form of media. Now, of course, this can be discussed and debated. There are books. As essentialists, we see things in our day-to-day, but maybe a lot of our information, the way that we understand the world, is through media and through television. Real experiences aren't authentic. They've become dead. We see things on television. So the Olympics you would have seen on television, unless you were fortunate to go, is a real experience. When you go to a gig and you record the music, is that real? Because you're not really there and enjoying it. So actually this influences the way that our world kind of works. And you could definitely draw parallels with his ideas with the current coronavirus pandemic, because the way that we experience the world has become, for me, who has been inside for an entire month almost, for essential travel, I'm seeing the world through media, through what's been written on Twitter, through what's being on the news, what's being on television. And in that, we can't stop mediating between ourselves and our lives and the lives represented and the world represented on television. Of course, also you can talk about Plato's allegory of the cave, which some of you may be familiar with. So it's the idea that the shadows on the wall are cast, and that is the representation of reality. It's only until you break out from that shadow and break out of the so-called cave. I mean, this is of course this is a complete paraphrase, that you completely feel enlightened and you can see what the world really is. Is Rupert Murdoch the shadow caster? Is BBC News? Most likely. So let's consider how TV is funded industrially. Obviously, we know how the BBC is funded through the licence fee, but also we have commercial networks. We have ITV, Channel 4. However, Channel 4 does get some subsidies from the government also. Another example would be most of those digital channels, Bravo, Dave, etc. They're commercial TV programs because they, as you could expect, run commercials, run adverts. Some also get subscription based. With Sky, you pay a monthly fee, like Netflix, like Amazon Prime, etc. And this was kind of a model for TV. Although Sky's kind of on the way out, I think. Obviously, streaming sites are massive. They've dominated. Now TV, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu. More people are watching them, especially with the younger generation. So us, we're watching more of this. My parents watch a lot of Netflix as well. And you can see that lots of companies are trying to get onto this trend. Disney Plus, I mentioned before, prime example. Most studios you will find are starting to release their own streaming sites in order to compete with Netflix and Now TV, etc. I'm not going to talk about this really, but maybe one thing I will add is that released around 700 originals in 2018. So Netflix is pumping out content. However, not all of it is there. So when it says a Netflix original, it's not always an original, it's just because they put it on their platform, or they might put some money into the distribution. But however, they are trying to make way more content, and people are going to Netflix. Film directors, look at Martin Scorsese with The Irishman, couldn't get made in the classic studio system. It moved over to Netflix, and they made it for them. The Coen Brothers, Buster Scruggs, these are premier filmmakers moving on to Netflix. TV as well. Stranger Things, massive. The Tiger King as well, the recent documentary series. Netflix wants original IP, intellectual property. It doesn't have its own stuff, so it's trying to really push for it. Because at the moment, their stuff is owned by other people, and then when other people take their programs away, like Disney has, that obviously has got some competition. But Netflix could be going through a bit of a, it could be the beginning of the end for Netflix. It's almost $20 billion of debt because it throws money at so many production companies. It's making so much content. It's buying so much content. It's actually in loads of debt, and it could just collapse. That's why price is increasing. As I said before, Disney has removed its films. Now it's going to start with Disney Plus. Also, Netflix is not really considered well within the filmmaking community. In awards and traditional media, there's a big feud a couple of years ago with Cannes, where they wanted to ban all Netflix films because they weren't put in national cinemas. Because you watch Netflix online and they usually have a very limited or not a cinema release whatsoever, they're not really considered to be films that have been put forward for festival awards. So actually, is that cultural currency what could make Netflix weaker? I mean, I don't really like Netflix programs, and maybe that is an element of snobbery because it's not considered to be of a higher standard. But actually, they have a lot of content, and a lot of it isn't very good. They have lots of rubbish on there. And originally this was an uncompetitive market. They had a monopoly on this, but now it's changed rapidly with these stuff. And what will happen with that is there's a huge expense on you, the consumer, and actually you'll see an increase in piracy. The bad old days of DVD, you had to buy DVDs all the time from different companies. Netflix was great because you could watch all your films and TV shows in one place, but now they're all spread out. More people are going to end up piracy, most likely, and that's what's been predicted. However, Netflix is positive because I've said before, you get more funding for new ideas, new talents, programs that were blacklisted from TV are now making an appearance on Netflix, which is really great for creativity. But then again, the worry is, does it become oversaturated? But then TV power has now shifted. Does it only belong to CBS, NBC, BBC, these big networks, or can we democratise TV a little bit more? Now, I would say in the last 10 years we've been going through what has been dubbed a golden age of television. Uh, there was probably another one, I mean, Britain in particular had a golden age in about the 1970s, where it's producing absolutely fantastic drama, which a lot of the Americans of today, showrunners for instance, look to as inspiration. So we're talking The Singing Detective, Pennies from Heaven, Edge of Darkness, great BBC dramas. But now American TV is dominating the stage. And usually we can indicate when this is a golden age TV show with its budget. The fact that it's serialized now, you're getting less of these kind of episodic dramas like CBS, Law and Order, CSI. You're seeing way more long form stories. And what serialized essentially means is you have to watch the episode before or the episode after to understand the whole story and the whole narrative arc. Episodic obviously means you watch it in an episode and it's self-contained within that episode. So Friends would be an example of such. You can watch an episode of Friends and not really have to watch another episode to understand what's going on. It's kind of explained and wrapped up nicely. We're seeing way more serialized dramas. Although, having said that, I can see that there is episodic push of the anthology series. So things like Black Mirror, for instance, that has its own self-contained. You're seeing a little bit more of that, and that's kind of the ilk of the Twilight Zone or Hitchcock's Half Hour and programs like Hancock's Half Hour as well. Other programs from the past. It's a lot more drama now. I mean, comedy is now making a comeback in some respects, but now it's emphasis, especially on Netflix, on stand-up. Whereas you're seeing big programs that are drama. Although things like Curb Your Enthusiasm, very expensive, looks very good on HBO, and you can tell that it's kind of the same ilk. You're seeing a wide range of stories and genres. We're not just watching courtroom dramas. We're not just watching police procedural. I mean, we're getting more quirky stories. We're getting more representations. I mean, Game of Thrones, fantasy drama, is very poo-poo. People didn't really like that stuff. Game of Thrones came out, and everyone is watching fantasy, which is amazing because it's considered to be quite nerdy. And actually, people that wouldn't have watched that previously are now watching it with Game of Thrones, but now it's cancelled. All sorts of stories, all sorts of programs. Again, the shorter the series length, we consider this to be a mark of quality. You're not going to get the 20 episode beast that is a CSI series. It's usually between 8 to 12. And that usually, because people don't want to lumber through lots of TV, they want it to be tight, concise, and quality. Cinematic, you get impressive set design, it looks fantastic. You're getting people from the film industry working in television sometimes. Again, the emphasis is on story and great character. So at the moment I've been watching Succession on HBO. I've just finished it. Absolutely brilliant. So rich, deep, great character design and great arc. I recommend it thoroughly. And that's a quality TV show. It's not Miss Brown's Boys. And that's basically what long-form TV drama is. Here are some examples. You may have seen so. I mean, Miss Maisel, great. Stranger Things, Netflix's kind of like flagship, Power on Stars. American Horror Story, which I think is finished. Walking Dead, which is still lumbering on. People are getting a bit sick of The Walking Dead. Leftovers is only 3 series. Fantastic. So all of you are probably watching something like this, some kind of drama program. 13 Reasons Why, Riverdale. You might have watched The Bodyguard when it's on BBC, for instance. So in light of this, I want you to do a bit of research. I want you to talk about what you've been watching. So I want you to do a bit of a research task. Before we get into the nitty gritty of our CSPs, let's actually start getting into the language and the world of TV. So I want you to look at the production history. The program that you choose, I want you to, is it come from a book? Is it a new idea? Is it come from a pre-existing show? Has it been remade? Who bought it? Which basically means who makes it. Now remember, there's the network and there's the production company. Those can be 2 different things. So do your digging. Where is it broadcast? Is it online? Is it on BBC? Is it a co-production? What is the show? Describe me. Tell me what it is. Put a log line there. Is it mainstream? Is it niche? What's the genre? Identify the genre. Also talk about who's involved. So writers, producers, any famous executive producers. I know Martin Scorsese produces television, for instance. He produced Boardwalk Empire a couple of years ago. Actors. Why were some of those people cast? Look at, if you're watching The Witcher on Netflix, Henry Cavill was cast because he loves The Witcher. He loves that video game series. So there might be a story behind that. marketing. So look at the way it was marketed. Look at posters. Look at trailers. How has it been marketed, and who is it marketed to? So here's a really great opportunity to include some audience theory, Blummer and Katz, Young and Rubicam's psychographic profiles, socioeconomic groups, gender, age, and do a bit of analysis. Take a sequence that you like from a TV show and analyze it. Try and get that skill working again. Look at the camera shots, the mise en scène, the sound, the music. I'll be doing one as well, which I'll show you next week. But maybe preferably do it from the first episode. But if you think it's a really great sequence, maybe the Red Wedding from Series 3 of Game of Thrones, or Series 5 is Mad Men. There's lots of good programs. Do that by all means. Representation. How does it represent its themes, its characters? What's being shown to you and the world? Is it a progressive representation, do you think? Is it diversity for diversity's sake, or is it really saying something? Now, all of this I would like you to formulate into a 1,500-word essay. And I know that sounds a bit of a drag, but actually it's a really good way to succinctly write, because that's not very long. I mean, it's nothing. And it's 10% leniency either way, so if you get really into it, you can write a little bit more, or you can write a little bit less. I want you to structure it in paragraphs, so preferably maybe the way that I've staggered it here, maybe do a paragraph on each. And I want you to include a bibliography on anything you've read. Now, this might be a new concept for you. Obviously, you're in year 12, but actually, if you go on to university or any further education, you will need to get to the use of essay writing and research. So in this PowerPoint, which will be on Show My Homework, which will be on the VLE, you will be able to learn how to reference in text. So if you're talking about a particular program, a particular essay or article you write, this is how you should structure it. TV show, you would write the transmission. TX means transmission date. However, it might be difficult for things like Netflix because they might not be, it might not have been on television, so they might not be transmission. So perhaps just put the date. So bibliography is essentially all of your readings you put into a nice list and you put it into alphabetical order, and we look at where you've read. So if you go on a Wikipedia page, for instance, if you go right at the bottom, there'll be a bibliography about how the page has been formed and constructed. So this is essentially what I would like you to do. So if you've read a Guardian article, stick it in there and structure it like this. So you usually put the author, the date, what's the name of the article, what the paper that produced it was. So Film Quarterly is a journal, and that basically means it's the 61st edition of the fourth year, and then you've also got the page numbers. Now you might not have to be complicated as that. If you did, for instance, an article, you might just write the author, the date again, the name of the article, where it was published, the date in which it was published, and then where you saw it. So you'd include the hyperlink. But again, if you're unsure about any of this, send me an email. There'll also be a chance for a conference call next Monday. I will give you the dates and the kind of logistics of that through an email within the week. There'll be an opportunity to ask any questions or just to catch up on anything. But yeah, please be communicative with me. I feel that some of you have not been, and I've sent you work. I know it's a difficult period and whatnot, but we've got to still keep the ball rolling in some respect. So please send me an email if you're unsure, or if you even want recommendations, or you want something to watch, or something to read. I've got lots of it, lots of knowledge to bequeath to you. So I'm going to leave that there, and this is what I'd like you to do. So again, this PowerPoint will be, and most tasks and links and things will be on the VLE, will be on Show My Homework, and via email. So there should be no excuse to not do this. Again, I'll give you probably about 3 weeks to do it. I'll put it on Show My Homework, but other than that, I think it's quite straightforward. So make some notes on what I've written, and then also get that nice essay going. You might find that you enjoy it. But here's hoping. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll speak to you in a week. Have a nice week. Stay safe. Farewell.